Hi there. Welcome to the maiden edition of the Life Envoy podcast. I am your host, Vincent La. With me here, we have
Philip KJ.
And Michael Jackson.
these are honorable guests for the show today. We are going to have a very lively discussion with regards to a very nice topic. Today, we look at the current trend in situation. We look at job hunting after the degree, right after school. What's up next? Everyone has a dream or had a dream probably growing up. Some wanted to be doctors, some wanted to be engineers and all. But are we all achieving the goal or the dream as it is? Well, right here on this podcast, The Life Envoy, we would give you the breakdown and then you would really enjoy it. So, Phil, let me start with you. How has it been, life after the degree? What are your experiences personally?
Wow. Um, Life after tertiary has been actually smooth, but
Okay,
life is not a smooth mountain.
that's true.
We have our up and downs, and I think so far, at the beginning,
Okay.
it was quite tough, but along the line, we've been able to find our way through the system.
Okay.
The system already is tough.
Okay.
So I think life after tertiary itself has taught me a lesson.
Okay.
Hunting for jobs, sending out a lot of applications, attending interviews without even getting feedback, sending emails and they will reply, unfortunately, we cannot continue with you. So I think it's been cool, but I think most of the upcoming ones will definitely find their way through if they persist and chase their dreams.
That's
So
great.
generally it's okay.
Okay, so that is Phil's accession to this particular question. I mean, he has made a popular mention. He has talked about the fact that you would have to put through applications in, and then, fortunately, you would be called. Unfortunately, you would be denied. And this is experience most graduates would definitely share, in his opinion. And I think, Mike, you definitely are a graduate also. So, what are your experiences also?
As Phil said, it's been smooth, it's been quite okay, but along the line, you tend to realize that it's not only about your passion, but it's also about some responsibility. Yeah, you would end up noticing that there are a lot of responsibilities that you need to do, and this mostly interferes with chasing your dreams. So life as a graduate for me has been a battle to balance between pursuing my dreams and also the responsibilities I have to carry out.
Okay. These experiences are quite obvious, and we can tell from the perspective of able guest here. Now, the most important thing I want to also raise here is this. Now, as we are talking about hunting for jobs after the degree, I know life after school has actually, diverted most of our courses. A lot of us, what we really wanted to become, we are not.
Yeah.
Some are still striving through the process to become what it is they would want to be.
Sure.
But aside all of this, I think most people end up blaming the government. A lot of them putting the blame on government, saying government is not creating job opportunities or employment opportunities enough for them to at least utilize those spaces. What do you have to say with regards to that? Do you really think the government is responsible for the high rate of unemployment, or you think otherwise? Phil.
To me, it's a 50-50.
Okay.
Um, we are in a country whereby most of our leaders don't care
Okay.
about the youth. What they care much about is how to gather a lot of money, take their families abroad to study, live a comfortable life. But with the youth as well,
Okay.
I think as an individual, you don't solely have to rely on the government.
Okay.
Personally, I would like to share my experience. After sending out several job applications, I realized that if it's not working, why should I continue?
Okay.
I think I can start my own business. I studied computer science in
Okay. Oh,
tertiary,
that's great.
and I started learning programming languages when I was in my second year.
Okay.
So due to that, I was able to gather a lot of experience build some systems out there. And after school, actually said, okay, then let me see if I can keep on building certain systems. So I even had my first gig. I mean, my first uh, web engineer website. I am in Accra, right? So I built a web application for a hospital. So I think henceforth I was able to, build some of these websites for other
People were now
yes,
bringing
yes,
gigs and all.
yeah. And aside that, not just building website, I also started Let's Trip GH.
Okay.
That is my personal touring or traveling
Oh, okay,
company
that's nice.
that we are able to send people across the country to educate them about some of the cultures and
Okay.
some of the tourist sites we have in Ghana.
Ghana, wow.
Then also with some of my guys, we are looking at establish a new logistic business,
Okay.
which it's also in the pipeline.
Okay.
So to me, I see it wrong if you solely depend on
The
the
government. That
yes.
that I guess is to say the system is rather creating alternatives in your regard,
Exactly.
because you are now beginning to understand that relying solely on the government is not going to bring any solution.
Sure.
And so you would have to find your own path, regardless whether it is easy or not. But then through that, if you're able to establish yourself in the end, that would be your own interest and then your own benefit.
Sure.
I see.
Yeah.
So basically, I think we all share in Phil's submission that if the jobs are not coming from the government, no matter how many applications you put through, and I think in one of Jack Ma's presentations, he made mention of this particular same submission. He said there was a time if you should ask him of the man who has ever made most job applications, he would tell you he was the one. He said he applied for job roles until it got to a point where the least job offers, if they are picking 100 people and he's part of those 100 people, rather because of his presence, they would rather pick 99 so that you'll be left out of it.
Wow.
And today we all bear what Jack Ma is doing with his Alibaba and things of sort. So if he had relied solely on the fact that he's not getting an opportunity and so he still has to push and push and push like most graduates are doing today, you would keep tendering the applications and then the rejections would keep coming. And sometimes you would have to travel far away places to just, you know, go for these job interviews, the kind of stress you go through, and sometimes the kind of silly questions they even ask you to make you feel otherwise. I think it's a very good submission. Well, that is Phil's personal experience. So, Mike, if I should ask, he, realizing the government is not going to be of help to him, has started creating a niche for himself. In this regard, he's been able to come up with Let's Trip GH, and then he's also starting a logistics, company and things of sort. What are you also looking at? Do you share in Phil's experience? Do you have any personal establishments you're also coming up with?
Yeah, I've worked with Phil for quite a while now,
Okay.
and we've both seen the same thing in the trend. And looking at it from our standpoint, it's like there are no jobs available, or there are jobs available, but it's very scarce. And also, it takes like protocol, what people call protocol, to be able to know someone, to get into these jobs which are available. And most of the jobs which are even available cannot even cater for your day-to-day needs.
That's very true.
So I think entrepreneurship is the way out for most of we the graduates now. From my personal experience, I grew up in a business home, so we've been doing business for quite a while. And then after my schooling, I worked with Commercial for a while. I worked with Enterprise Life, and then also I worked with Melot for a while. Yeah, but looking at it, I gained experiences from all these places, and then I was able to go back into my own family business and then improve it to take it to the next level. So it doesn't only mean that you should get a government-made job to be able to survive. Yeah, there are a lot of private institutions out there looking for workers, But many people don't seem to want to go into the private sector.
Okay.
They prefer to get already cooked jobs like police, immigration,
Sure.
fire service.
Sure.
Yeah, they don't want to go into
Yeah, so they can be taking their monthly
yeah,
stipends
yeah,
readily and
without even
yeah.
putting in the work.
Yeah.
As we see, most of the government workers today, they hardly even go to their offices.
Yeah.
See a lot of them whiling away time
Sure.
in the offices.
Sure. Yeah.
And many people want to live the lazy life. But what from my experience, Charlie, the lazy life doesn't pay.
It doesn't pay for
Yeah.
real. Okay.
Doesn't
So
pay.
I think Mike has also raised a very tangible concern here, mentioning the term entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And in our everyday life, you hear quite a number of people mentioning this entrepreneurship, and then those, when a topic comes up, then the number of people who approach the topic with their different ideologies will tell you how every individual thinks about a particular issue.
Yeah.
But this issue of entrepreneurship, just as you mentioned, there are people saying the government is not providing or making provisions for, capitals for them to kickstart their entrepreneurship ideas and all. Now, the question is this: as a true entrepreneur, do you really need to rely on the government's quota for a capital to establish yourself in whichever discipline you intend to go? Or you would have to look harder? I mean, because whatever, I believe there is this saying that whatever you can imagine is possible to achieve.
Yeah.
And that is why the world is now going the way it is going. So, do you believe that if the government is talking about entrepreneurship for the youth, if the government would have to solely go into entrepreneurship, the way forward, should it be the government making provisions for capitals for the youth to, kickstart their businesses, especially those small scale businesses and things of sort? You'd have to start something first. Even with that, you have to start something first before the government comes in to, effect any capital or things of sort. So do you also believe in that regard, or as an individual had made it a point unto himself to, establish himself, he would have to find other alternatives? If so, which are what are some of the possible alternatives an individual can explore? I mean, leaving behind the government's option to, get into this entrepreneurship space.
So from your question, you
Okay.
can see that there are a lot of policies that the government has set in place
Okay.
to encourage entrepreneurship among the youth.
Okay.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that the government should give out money or start up capital to people.
Okay.
One of the fundamental rules of being a true entrepreneur is to solve basic problems in
Sure.
your community
That's true.
using the most available resources.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't need to get a loan of 100,000 cedis before you can start a business.
Okay.
Yeah, you can start a business by doing the little things that people need in your community.
Okay.
So you can start by doing laundry services. Probably you don't have a washing machine,
Sure.
but you can start washing for people.
Okay.
In the near future, you'll be able to buy
A washing machine.
a washing machine. You can open it into a laundry service.
Okay.
You can also start by making cooking for people or cleaning their houses. You start with your broom, your mop, and a few things. You start doing this before you realize you are moving into what house cleaning
So
services.
the big dream starts with the menial jobs and the menial
jobs,
things.
yeah.
Okay.
So you don't
Okay.
really need to have a loan of 100,000 cedis, 200,000 cedis to start a job, because you will not even be able to manage the capital that will be given to
That's
you.
very true.
Yeah, you don't have experience in running a business, so why should someone invest into you?
Exactly.
So it's quite how do you call it, unreasonable for people to expect the government to give them money to start up their businesses.
Okay.
They will give you policies that will help you start up your business. Now,
Okay.
even I know some banks are having loans for small scale businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these banks, you normally access the feasibility of the business.
Okay.
That is where most of the young entrepreneurs are not able to make it, because most of their ambitions are too huge.
Yeah.
And it looks so
Unreasonable.
unreasonable.
I mean, that's very true. To add to what Mike is rightly saying, most youth today have the dreams of becoming billionaires, but we normally forget that being a billionaire, we are in Ghana, so practically, let me use our denomination. Becoming a billionaire starts with the first city. you obtain.
Yeah.
Yes, but then in our setting, most of the people who aspire to be billionaires actually think to be a billionaire just starts with your first big hit. You should start with a million. You should start with, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I think that is also part of why most youth today are going through the stress they go through.
Yeah.
Because you made a point where you said there are policies laid down by the government and then even some governmental organizations that are also able to propel the individuals who want to go into this entrepreneurship thing to grow. But you see, the problem is most people are not looking at these options.
Yeah.
They're rather looking at the monies involved.
Yeah.
And I bet you there are entrepreneurs who will tell you that if you give a man who hasn't analyzed a business space, a certain amount of money to establish himself, give the money to him today. The next month you come and then you ask him, part of the money has been used for his personal expenses,
Yeah.
and there is almost nothing left.
Yeah.
And that is why, if you are going into this particular space for such an amount to establish yourself, you should be very careful because money is given to you, especially when it comes huge. You see it to be, as we are all seated here, we crave for a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
But when that amount comes into our hands right now, there are two people who would be in this particular room. The one who looks at the amount readily and says, "Oh, I used to want to start sneaker business. So practically this is the time." But perhaps when you wanted to start a sneaker business, you were back in uni,
Yeah.
where you think the guys were, actually into sneaker buying and things of such. Now you're out of school and the money has come and you are still having the dream you had yesterday.
The market
I think
target is
that is one of the problems. So I share in Mike's submission also. Now, also, if this is what we are saying with regards to the current situation of unemployment, does it mean that most of the youth are not thinking outside of the box, or they are really thinking outside of the box but are not getting it right? Because over here, we all know that getting the capital is difficult. You have to explore
Yeah.
opportunities.
Really.
And then you really mentioned one practical example. I think that is why the tech space is quite growing, because you identify a problem and then you solve it. That man realized once he enters his room, there is always this, thickness of darkness that clouds the room, and he couldn't bear it. And so he came up with the idea of a light bulb. And today we all are enjoying it. He was trying to solve a particular problem for himself, but then he ended up solving a problem for almost all. So the question now is, most of the youth still complaining. Is it that the problems are finished? I mean, the problems that would set them off to the right periphery for them to grow are no more there, or they are really not thinking hard to come up with, the necessary growth process.
I think there are a lot of problems that still exist.
Okay.
Probably you don't have the resources to address that problem.
Okay.
So that means that it's above you, because right now I can see that we have bad roads in the country,
Sure.
and I would like to have money to construct roads, probably put tolls on it and get my money back in a couple of years.
Okay.
But currently I don't have the kind of money to construct roads in the country.
That's very true.
So it means that it's a problem, but it's far above me. But maybe in my own community, they might need teachers in maybe a basic school somewhere,
Sure.
and me being a graduate, I think I can handle basic school teaching.
Okay.
So that's a problem, and then you are the solution,
Okay.
using the least and most available resource available to you.
Okay.
It's yourself.
Sure.
So if you have the strength to do the teaching, as I said, what stops you from solving that problem?
Wow.
If you are strong enough to do the little works that people require of you. We are graduates. I think Phil and myself, we graduated in 2019.
Okay.
We've worked with Melot for a while. People are like, why do we do such jobs? Why do we go serving food in programs and occasions and things?
Okay.
But it's a problem. People need sometimes quality service.
Sure.
And sometimes leaving it with uneducated people, it's kinds of gives causes problems for the event planners.
Okay.
So handing over the events and serving of food and drinks to educated people who can think smart and make the right decisions and also know how to interact with customers makes it different. That's a problem we noticed, and we solved it by availing ourselves
Sure.
to do that job.
Sure.
So for for all we know, there are a lot of problems around us. It's just about you availing yourself
For the
and
problem.
knowing the right resources that you are going to employ
Okay.
to
To
solve
face a
that problem.
problem. Okay. That is very beautiful. Thank you very much, Michael. To wrap everything up, what Michael is basically trying to tell us all today is this: that sometimes we look beyond where we are supposed to look. We look too harder. We practically go beyond the necessary to just uh, get our dreams achieved. But sometimes the dream is quite closer than we actually think it is. And so, from this podcast, The Life Envoy today, you practically would come to understand that it is better to sometimes start assessing the problem right from your doorstep before you take it out and not just look from afar. Because sometimes the solution to the problem you're actually looking at to be that billionaire you dream of is right at your doorstep. Thank you very much. It's been quite an intriguing and interesting episode here on the Life Envoy. I have been your host, and my name is Vincent Lar. This session came up to you with my very noble guest here.
And Michael Jablito.
We are very thankful for making this a success. See you again.